Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. Well, I'm delighted to have I'm glad my heart was right and my head was wrong. My heart went for Anthony Joshua. My head went for Andy Ruiz. And I'm glad. Usually you got to go with your head, as they say in life. But the heart does win sometimes. And tonight, the heart mixed with Anthony Joshua's strategy won the occasion. With some other very concerning things. See, I made the video before the weigh-in. When Andy Ruiz came in, massive. 20 stone in weight. And when he actually got in the ring tonight to fight and he took his top off, he looked all of that 20 stone and more. I was then concerned for Andy Ruiz. His feet all night long looked like they were in cement from round one. He made, and Anthony Joshua was much lighter, much quicker, much slicker, more of a scientist than a knockout artist tonight. But it was a mixture of two things. Andy Ruiz's weight really slowing him down and a lack of professionalism, which he more or less admitted, right? And Anthony Joshua's changes. Because Andy Ruiz, for love nor money, could not cut that ring off at all on Anthony Joshua. There were times during that fight when Joshua was outboxing Ruiz and Ruiz resorted to standing in the centre of the ring and waving to Joshua, come on. Well, I'm sorry, Andy. When a guy is 8 rounds ahead, he's not just going to walk up to you, particularly after the experience of the fight in New York, and let you hit him. Andy Ruiz was more or less saying, please, AJ, I've had a terrible, unprofessional camp. Please let me knock you out. And Anthony Joshua was just looking at him as if to say, well, this is what you get, boy, when you're not professional. It was a fight of a professional and a disappointing, reckless, arrogant little boy. That's all I could say. Andy Ruiz must have thought that all he had to do was turn up and he'd beat Anthony Joshua. Because he looked like a whale trying to go around in that ring. I'm glad Anthony Joshua won for one reason. Because my heart wanted him to win. He's a countryman. And there's other reasons. Then this reason is important to me and I think every boxing fan. We want a heavyweight champion that carries himself well. Say what you want about Deontay Wilder. Say what you want about Vladimir Klitschko. Say what you want even when Tyson Fury turns up for a big fight. All of these guys get in the best shape they possibly can. Win, lose, draw. For all Deontay Wilder's flaws, he's in shape, right? He gives it his all, right? Got to give credit for that. Anthony Joshua the same. Anthony Joshua, yes, he's been criticised for turning up too bulky, but at least being too bulky is a result of someone who is working hard on their physique. But Andy Ruiz is not carrying himself like a champion. And Anthony Joshua's professionalism means he is carrying himself like a champion. And with the history of this great division, we want a guy that is an example. And we've got plenty of fighters in the division that could be that example. Right? Joseph Parker is always in shape when he fights. He is. I hope Dillian White doesn't get like Andy Ruiz, to be honest. He coming at 271 pounds on the scales. Got to get down, Dillian. You can't be doing that. Right? I don't care whether you're talented. Andy Ruiz is talented. To be so out of shape and still manage to go 12 rounds with one of the best heavyweights in the world is an achievement. But he sells himself short with this lack of commitment tonight. And he's done it before. In fights he's won. But he did look a lot slower than he did in New York. The 15-pound weight gain did tell. God knows what he entered the ring as. Because Andy Ruiz probably was straight in the restaurant after the weigh-in, right? But I thought Joshua maintained, a good boxing IQ in there. He didn't engage when he didn't need to. He managed to keep the movement up for 12 rounds, which not many people thought he could do. Andy Ruiz actually probably thought that at some stage Joshua couldn't move and he'd be able to nail him. But you see, as a boxer, as a world champion, you are supposed to anticipate all things. Right? You are supposed to anticipate. Andy Ruiz would have needed to be better tonight than he was in New York to beat Anthony Joshua. Not worse. And he was worse. Those feet didn't move. He could not move. He was like his feet were in cement. He was like he was in sinking sand as the rounds went on. He's a hell of a chin. I've got to give him that. But Joshua's punches on the back foot, probably there was some steam taken off them. And probably because Joshua lost some weight, maybe it's took a bit of power out of his punches. But as I said, Andy Ruiz was a disgrace to himself tonight. And he admitted it. He was a disgrace to the heavyweight title. He was a disgrace to the sport. And Anthony Joshua was a credit. He was the professional one. Right? He's the one that deserves to be called the champion. It would have been an absolute real injustice had we got to the 12th round and Andy Ruiz landed a punch that ended that night, because Andy Ruiz didn't deserve to win. I'm a guy that wanted Anthony Joshua to win, but I, as a fan of the sport, I'm disappointed in seeing that guy go in there looking like a blimp. Right? I know he's looked big before, but he at least had some speed. He at least had some ability to. Now, he's never been the quickest on his feet, because carrying that weight, ultimately, it will catch up on you. But he was like grease lightning in the first fight, Andy Ruiz, compared to tonight. And he was the one. And I looked at, the British fans and the American fans. We really understand boxing a lot more than other nations. Other nations are getting kind of new to the sport, right? For them in Saudi Arabia, this was not a spectacle. This was more Floyd Mayweather than Mike Tyson, if that makes sense. Of course, a good introduction would have been a Mike Tyson-style performance where Anthony Joshua blasted Andy Ruiz out of there. Then I think the crowd really warmed to it. But I could see the British fans looking really excited again, because they understand the sweet science as well as the brute science. But the Saudi Arabian people were, for better of a word, silent. Silent. And that's not Anthony Joshua's fault. That's because of Andy Ruiz's lack of professionalism, because he couldn't apply what he needed to do to try and make this a good fight. Let's face it, as a fighter, if you're in the absolute best shape of your life, you've got your work cut out facing Anthony Joshua. So God knows how hard it must be going in there with him, 10 pounds lighter, and you going in there 20 stone plus. Absolute madness. I couldn't believe the weigh-in. Because I anticipated Andy Ruiz going in there a few pounds lighter than he did in the first fight to try and counter the inevitable speed that would come from Anthony Joshua. But Joshua proved that he could maintain it. But it was helped massively by Andy Ruiz's lack of quality preparation. Do I still think Anthony Joshua would have won on that evidence? Probably yes. Is that the blueprint to beat Andy Ruiz in a third fight? Yes, it is. They're talking about a third fight, guys, right? And I know how they're going to sell it right now. Andy Ruiz was not in great shape. And people will buy into what's Andy going to be like when he's in better shape. Well, I think he can do better than this. I mean, he couldn't do any worse. What did he win? Was it the 8th round and maybe he nicked another at best? But from round 1, honestly, the writing was on the wall. There was no pace to his work, no ability again to cut off the ring. And they talk about fast hands, but when you can't nail a space down or get your opponent into position, fast hands are useless. You might as well just throw them at thin air. And because he couldn't get close to Joshua, the hand speed could not come into play. Now again, his speed was faster in New York. Joshua was slower. But because his feet was just that fraction quicker, I'm not saying they were Roberto Duran style speed, but just because they were that much quicker, it gave Anthony Joshua just a lot more to think about in New York. But you have no feet in boxing. You have very little. Unless an opponent, very stupidly, just stands there and lets you do your work. And that is not going to happen at the top level. Especially when Anthony Joshua has already had a lesson in New York. You have to find a way. And the way was to be leaner, quicker, and have a high work rate. And he did land some shots on Joshua, but Joshua made sure that there were single shots. And he was gone before Ruiz, or he jabbed Ruiz before Ruiz could put a combination together. Right? What does this mean for Andy Ruiz? Well, if he gets the third fight, he's a lucky man. Because if he doesn't get the third fight, he's going to be drowned out. Because he's the guy that, nobody really wants. What I mean by that is, he can look terrible one night, but they also know if he turns up, he's dangerous, right? So you avoid those sort of guys. You don't want to fight him. So the get out of jail card from a guy that doesn't want to fight Andy Ruiz now is, did you see him against Anthony Joshua? Not very good. I don't need to fight this guy. It would be a walkover, even though they know it might not be if Andy Ruiz turns up focused. But if he doesn't get the third fight with Anthony Joshua, he's put himself in that position now. He has no belts to egg people on. He's a danger man on his best night, so that puts people off. And the get out of jail card for not fighting Andy Ruiz is, well, he's not a professional. Did you see him in his second fight with Anthony Joshua? The guy's the new Buster Douglas. People are going to say these things because they know he's dangerous. Right? If he comes in focused, he's dangerous. Right? So, does this mean Anthony Joshua now goes on to dominate the division? Well, it's possible. But still, we know Deontay Wilder will come in the shape of his life against Anthony Joshua should that fight happen. We know Tyson Fury will come in the best shape since Klitschko if he meets Anthony Joshua. These guys may be beaten by Joshua. Styles make fights. Joshua may have the style over these guys. Who knows? They may have the style over him. But these guys are professionals. These guys are world champions. These guys carry themselves like world champions. Tyson Fury went so badly out of shape because of mental health issues. The man had a breakdown. Andy Ruiz, and he's got himself back into better shape, but Andy Ruiz has gotten so badly out of shape, not because of mental health, not that I know of anyway, but because of relaxing and taking things too easy and thinking you've made it, and all I've got to do, as nice as he sounds, he's arrogant. All I've got to do is turn up, and because I'm Andy Ruiz, world champion, Anthony Joshua is just going to lie down. I don't think it would have took Anthony Joshua to beat Andy Ruiz tonight, to be honest with you. I think Dillian Whyte in there may have given problems. I think a few fights. I thought at one point that Joseph Parker would lose the rematch to Andy Ruiz. Tonight's performance, I'm not sure. On that level of foot speed, he'd have struggled with Hughie Fury, right? But Joshua boxed his pants off. Right, and look comfortable. You would not think that this guy was the only guy to beat him just 6 months ago. But again, credit to Anthony Joshua. He carried himself like a champion. He is a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Psychologically, I thought if he gets through the first 4 rounds unscathed, he's going to be in a good place. And he looked like he could have been boxing there all night and Andy Ruiz couldn't have got to him. If the third fight happens, he can beat Andy Ruiz, but Andy Ruiz can at least give himself a bit of credibility. You know, a bit like, not that Evander Holyfield ever in his life turned up looking like that, but remember when Evander Holyfield in the first Lennox Lewis fight, his head was boxed off. It was something like 9-3. But Holyfield turned up and fought gallantly in the second fight. Still lost, but we didn't have the same sour taste in our mouths that we had in the first fight. Andy Ruiz now, if he gets that third fight, that's got to be the aim. He's got to be better. Right? No man, forget the result. If you're at your best, the best will turn up. Whether, on a good performance, you may lose, you may win. It can go in your way. But at least give yourself that chance, even if it's just a small chance. At least leave that ring saying, I was world champion, and I was worthy of being world champion. Because tonight it looks like we had another average fighter with the heavyweight crown. And I know Andy Ruiz has abilities that are above average. His hand speed is great, right? His ability to absorb a punch is great. For a big man, he goes 12 rounds very well. So he's not an average fighter, but his behaviour will turn him into an average fighter in the end if he carries on like this. I hope this is a big waking up call for him. He needs to realise that being heavyweight champion of the world, being heavyweight contender, carries some big responsibility. With great power, as Spider-Man says, comes great responsibility. And Anthony Joshua is the man that's shown us tonight that he can carry that responsibility. He had the weight of the world on his shoulders tonight, but he made Andy Ruiz look like Ruiz had lost the first fight. And Ruiz looked down in the dumps and desperate and was trying to make Anthony Joshua fight a stupid, let's have a punch-out fight. And Anthony Joshua just looked at him as if to say, Andy, please, what is this all about? What are you thinking, man? I am not going to go there, stand, shoulder to shoulder with you and have a phone booth fight. I'm not going to give you that chance. It's ultimately up to the boxer to create that chance. And Andy Ruiz just couldn't do it. Part of the problem was Anthony Joshua. He boxed that well tonight. But the other side of the equation was Andy Ruiz himself. And it's not good. In a way, justice is done. Anthony Joshua put the work in. He deserves the results. He deserves the belts. End of story. So that's me. Well done, Anthony Joshua. You are, an example. You are what we want in a heavyweight champion. Deontay Wilder, okay. Fundamentals may be lacking. The power is super in the right hand. But he carries himself shape-wise like a champion too. And Tyson Fury at least is trying to get back to his very best. Andy Ruiz needs to take a leaf out of these guys' books. And this is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. I'm out, brother.